Exile's End. The rust-colored dust of Mars swirled against the reinforced windows of Outpost Deimos, the smallest and most remote research station on the Red Planet. Commander Valeria Cade stood watching the storm, her weather-beaten face illuminated by the faint glow of emergency lights. 6 years of exile had carved new lines into her features, but had done nothing to diminish the intensity in her gray eyes. "Storm's getting worse, Commander," said Ellis, the station's meteorologist. He was one of the few who still used her military title, a small courtesy that meant more than Valeria would admit. "Let it come," she replied, her voice roughened by the thin Martian atmosphere she'd grown accustomed to breathing. "We've weathered worse." The statement applied to more than just dust storms. Once hailed as the Warlord of Mars for her tactical brilliance in establishing the first permanent human settlements, Valeria had been stripped of her command and exiled to this outpost after the Phobos incident. Her decision to destroy the failing Phobos mining platform had saved thousands of colonists from toxic contamination, but the Earth-based Interplanetary Authority had deemed it reckless destruction of valuable property. Politicians sitting in comfortable offices on Earth couldn't comprehend the harsh realities of survival on Mars. Outpost Deimos housed only 5 permanent residents, all of them either loyal to Valeria or, like her, unwanted elsewhere. They monitored atmospheric conditions, tested soil samples, and ran the automated mining equipment that provided Earth with precious minerals. It was mundane work for someone who had once commanded the entire Martian defense fleet, but Valeria had found a certain peace in the routine. That peace shattered at precisely 3:47 hours Martian Standard Time. "Commander," Chen's voice crackled through the station's intercom. The communications specialist's normally calm demeanor was edged with panic. "You need to see this. Now." Valeria found Chen in the communications hub, surrounded by screens displaying signal patterns she'd never seen before. "What am I looking at?" "It started as interference on our deep space monitoring array," Chen explained, fingers flying across the control panel. "I thought it was just solar flare activity, but it's structured. Definitely artificial, and definitely not one of ours." She looked up, eyes wide. "Commander, I think we're picking up signals from a non-human source." First contact. The possibility had been theorized for generations, but humanity had explored the solar system without finding so much as a microbe. If Chen was right, everything would change. "Have you contacted Earth Command?" Chen nodded. "Tried to. All communications with Earth and the inner colonies are jammed. Whatever this is, it's affecting everything." The main screen flickered, displaying a message from the Martian Colonial Authority. "Unknown vessels DTECTD in orbit. All OTPOSTs INITA emergency protocols. This is not a drill." "Show me," Valeria ordered, the authority in her voice automatic after years of command. The observatory feed revealed dark, angular ships moving into position around Mars. Dozens of them, with more appearing every minute. Their design followed no human aesthetic, all sharp edges and asymmetrical protrusions. "Ellis, wake everyone," Valeria ordered. "Chen, keep trying to reach anyone. Harrison, get the defense systems online." Defense systems. Harrison, their engineer, gave a bitter laugh. "We've got a single-point defense turret designed to shoot down meteors, not spaceships." "Just do it," Valeria snapped, already moving toward her quarters. Inside, she unlocked a hidden compartment beneath her bunk and removed a secure communications device, one that operated on military frequencies the Authority didn't know she still had access to. The device connected to a private channel used by those still loyal to her, scattered across Mars and its moons. The message she sent was brief. "The storm is here. Rendezvous at the sanctuary." Within minutes, the first impacts shook Olympus Mons as the alien vessels unleashed weapons unlike anything in humanity's arsenal. The major colonies went dark one by one. Phobos Colony, New Armstrong, Meridian City, all silent. The Martian defense fleet, never robust to begin with, was obliterated in the opening salvo. Earth was in chaos. The Interplanetary Authority, caught completely unprepared, dispatched frantic messages requesting information, then orders, then pleas for assistance. Politicians who had condemned Valyria now desperately sought military leaders with actual combat experience. 3 days after first contact, a shuttle landed at Outpost Deimos. It carried Counselor Takeda, one of the few Authority members who had opposed Valyria's exile. "You look terrible, Counselor," Valyria observed as Takeda stepped into the command center, disheveled and exhausted. "Earth is burning," he replied without preamble. "They call themselves the Navari. They've destroyed our orbital defenses and established beachheads in Asia and North America. Our weapons barely scratch their armor. And now you want my help." It wasn't a question. Takeda nodded, swallowing his pride. "The Authority has reinstated your commission. Full command of all remaining military forces in the solar system. The same Authority that called me a warmonger. That said, my methods were too extreme." Valyria turned to the window, watching the dust storm that now seemed trivial compared to the storm of war engulfing humanity. "What if I refuse?" "Then we die," Takeda said simply. "All of us." Valyria was silent for a long moment. "I won't answer to the Authority. If I do this, I do it my way." "Done. I'll need access to the deep mining equipment at Olympus Mons, control of all remaining ships, and amnesty for everyone who followed me into exile." "You'll have it. Whatever you need." Valyria's eyes narrowed. "What I need is to know what they want. No species travels interstellar distances just to destroy. There's something specific they're after." The answer came from Dr. Reyes, their geologist, who had been analyzing data from mining operations across Mars. "There's something strange about the attack pattern," she explained, displaying a map of the alien landings. "They're concentrating on areas with high concentrations of aethium." Aethium was a rare element discovered in Mars' core, used primarily in advanced superconductors. Earth scientists had only begun to explore its properties. "They're miners," Valyria realized. "They're not here to conquer. They're here to extract." With this insight, Valyria formulated a strategy. Conventional military tactics wouldn't work against the Navari's technological superiority. Instead, she would use their single-minded focus against them. Within a week, she had assembled a force unlike any in human military history. Miners with intimate knowledge of Martian geology, engineers who had kept equipment running with limited supplies, colonists who understood survival in hostile environments, and a small core of military personnel who had remained loyal to her despite everything. Their base of operations was the Sanctuary, an abandoned mining complex built into the side of Olympus Mons, shielded from orbital detection by the mountain's magnetic anomalies. Here, they retrofitted mining equipment into weapons and vehicles designed specifically for Martian combat. "The Navari have better technology," Valyria told her assembled forces, "but they don't understand Mars. We do. They see a resource to exploit. We see our home." The first test of her strategy came when a Navari mining operation began near Valles Marineris. Their ships deployed massive extraction equipment, protected by energy shields and automated defense systems. Valyria's forces didn't attack directly. Instead, they triggered a carefully calculated landslide that buried the extraction site under thousands of tons of Martian rock. When the Navari sent ground forces to investigate, they encountered not a traditional military formation, but automated mining drones reprogrammed to target their environmental suits. The aliens retreated, but Valyria knew it was only the beginning. The Navari would adapt, and humanity would need more than clever tricks to survive. They needed to take the fight to the enemy. Intelligence gathered from captured Navari technology revealed that their fleet was coordinated through a command ship in high Mars orbit. If Valyria could disable it, the Navari forces would be thrown into disarray. "It's suicide," said Harrison, when she outlined her plan to infiltrate the command ship. "No," Valyria replied. "It's our only chance, and I'll lead the mission myself. Using a captured Navari shuttle and environmental suits modified to approximate their appearance, Valeria led a small team into orbit. The approach was tense, with detection meaning instant destruction, but the disguise held long enough for them to dock with the massive command ship. Inside, they discovered an environment designed for a species that evolved in a high-gravity, high-pressure world. The Navari were broad, dense creatures with multiple limbs ending in precise manipulators, built for mining and engineering rather than warfare. This was not a warrior race, but one driven by desperation. The team fought their way to the ship's central control chamber, facing defenders whose technological advantage was partly offset by their unfamiliarity with direct combat. In the control room, Valeria found something unexpected: a repository of star charts showing a dying system with depleted resources. The Navari hadn't come as conquerors but as survivors, seeking resources to save their own civilization. This revelation didn't change the immediate reality: humanity fighting for its survival. The team planted explosives in critical systems and prepared to evacuate, but the Navari had discovered their presence. Cut off from their shuttle, Valeria made a desperate decision. "Get to the emergency pods," she ordered her team. "I'll make sure these charges detonate." Alone in the control chamber, surrounded by advancing Navari security forces, Valeria Cade prepared for her final stand. As alarms blared and alien voices raised an alarm, she smiled grimly. The Exiled Warlord of Mars was ready to ensure her people's survival, even at the cost of her own old warlord's redemption. The Navari command ship shuddered as the first explosions rippled through its lower decks. Valeria Cade stood in the control chamber, surrounded by alien technology, watching the countdown on her detonator. 30 seconds until the main charges would destroy the ship's propulsion and weapons systems. The thick door to the chamber buckled under concentrated energy fire. The Navari were coming. Valeria had sent her team to the escape pods, but she had every intention of following them. Death might be probable, but it wasn't her plan. She'd survived Mars for too long to surrender now. 20 seconds. The ship's internal communications erupted with alien voices, harsh, clicking sounds that the translation software struggled to interpret. One message repeated: "Protect the archive." Valeria's eyes narrowed. Archives meant data. Intelligence that could help humanity understand their enemy. 10 seconds. She located what appeared to be a data storage device near the main control panel. As the door finally gave way, and Navari security forces poured in, Valeria grabbed the device, fired her remaining ammunition to cover her retreat, and dove into a maintenance shaft as the final explosions rocked the vessel. The command ship didn't explode as she'd hoped, but its systems failed catastrophically. It listed in orbit, weapons offline, communications disrupted. Throughout the Mars system, Navari operations fell into disarray without central coordination. Valeria navigated through service corridors filled with escaping atmosphere, the ship dying around her. She reached the emergency evacuation bay just as the last pod was preparing to launch. "Cutting it close, Commander," said Reyes, helping her inside. "I brought a souvenir," Valeria replied, securing the alien data device as the pod ejected from the failing command ship. Their return to Mars coincided with a renewed Earth offensive. With the Navari command structure compromised, Earth forces had managed to destroy several landing parties and reclaim orbital space around their home planet. It wasn't victory, but it was the first real resistance since the invasion began. At the sanctuary, Dr. Chen worked tirelessly to decode the Navari data device. The breakthrough came 3 days later. "It's their historical database," she explained to Valeria and the senior staff. "And it explains everything. Their home system's star is dying, entering a phase that's flooding their planets with radiation. They've spent generations searching for new worlds with the resources they need. And they found us," Harrison added grimly. "They found Mars," Chen corrected. "Or more specifically, they found Atheum. According to this data, it's crucial to the technology that protects their civilization from their star's radiation." Valyria processed this information, seeing both the threat and the opportunity it presented. They're desperate, not malevolent. That gives us options. While Earth leaders advocated for all-out war, Valyria developed a different approach. The Nevari needed Aethium. Mars had it, but the Nevari's extraction methods were destroying the very environment humans had spent generations adapting to. We need to demonstrate that we can control access to what they need, she told her team. Force them to negotiate rather than simply take. The plan required controlling all major Aethium deposits on Mars. Valyria's forces began a campaign to secure these areas, using their knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver technologically superior Nevari units. They employed dust storms to blind sensors, pressure differentials to disrupt equipment, and the extreme cold of Martian nights to limit alien activities. Earth Command was skeptical. You're suggesting we attempt dialogue with an enemy that has shown no interest in communication, General Winters argued during a secure transmission. I'm suggesting we fight smarter, not harder, Valyria countered. They haven't attempted to communicate because they don't see us as equals, just obstacles. We need to change that perception. The Authority reluctantly agreed to give her approach time, though they simultaneously prepared a last-ditch nuclear option that would render Mars uninhabitable and its Aethium inaccessible. Valyria was given 2 weeks to prove her strategy viable before Earth launched its desperate counterattack. The centerpiece of her plan was the Elysium Plane operation. Intelligence indicated the Nevari were preparing their largest extraction effort there, bringing in equipment that could potentially reach the richest Aethium deposits on the planet. Rather than attacking directly, Valyria's forces modified Mars' automated terraforming infrastructure, originally designed to gradually increase atmospheric pressure. By overriding safety protocols, they created a massive localized pressure increase that neutralized the Nevari's equipment without harming the aliens themselves. With their operation stalled, the Nevari were forced to reassess. For the first time, they initiated communication. The first exchange was crude, relying on mathematical principles and simple imagery, but it confirmed Valyria's theory. The Nevari were engineers, not warriors. They had attacked because previous encounters with other species had taught them that negotiation was futile. Resources went to those with superior technology. They don't understand cooperation, Valyria realized. Their experience has been that species compete rather than collaborate. Through increasingly sophisticated exchanges, facilitated by both sides improving translation algorithms, a picture emerged of a species driven by existential crisis. Their sun's instability had already claimed 2 of their colony worlds. Earth and Mars represented their last, best hope. Valyria made them an offer, controlled access to Mars' Aethium deposits in exchange for technical knowledge and an immediate cessation of hostilities. The mining would be conducted jointly, using methods that preserved Mars' fragile environmental balance. The Nevari representatives were suspicious, but their alternatives were limited. Humanity had proven more resilient than anticipated, and the conflict was costing them precious time as their home system's condition worsened. Earth authorities were equally skeptical. You expect us to trust the species that just tried to exterminate us? Counselor Tekiva asked. I expect us to survive, Valyria replied. And so do they. That's common ground we can build on. The negotiations were tense, complicated by hawks on both sides who preferred annihilation to compromise. Earth military leaders, humiliated by their initial defeats, pushed for a vindictive approach now that the Nevari were on the defensive. Valyria stood firm. This isn't about revenge. It's about the future. We've barely established ourselves on Mars. We've never managed to terraform it fully. The Nevari have technology that could advance our efforts by centuries, if we cooperate. The turning point came when a separate Nevari fleet arrived in the outer solar system. Earth forces prepared for a new assault, but instead, the newcomers transmitted a single message in newly learned human language. We come to trade, not to take. It was the confirmation Valyria needed. The Nevari weren't unified in their approach, Like humans, they had factions with different methodologies. The aggressive initial force had been dispatched by leaders who believed conquest was the only reliable strategy. The new arrivals represented those who sought cooperative solutions. Over the following months, an unprecedented alliance took shape. Joint human-Navari operations began extracting ethium using techniques that preserved Mars' environment. In exchange, the Navari shared technology that accelerated terraforming efforts, making the planet more habitable for humans while remaining workable for their new allies. Valeria Cade, once exiled in disgrace, became the primary liaison between species. The Warlord of Mars found a new title, the Architect of Peace. 1 year after first contact, Valeria stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the first jointly constructed orbital facility. Below, the red planet showed the early signs of transformation: larger ice caps, thicker atmosphere, the faint beginnings of what might someday be oceans. "You were right," Counselor Takeda admitted, standing beside her. "About everything." Valeria shook her head. "Not everything. I thought I was preparing Mars for human survival. Now I'm preparing it for something much more complicated and much more important. There are still those who think we should have fought to the end," Takeda said, "who see any compromise as weakness." "There always will be," Valeria replied. "On both sides. Our job is to prove them wrong every day." As they spoke, a notification appeared on the station's communication system. New signals detected at the edge of the solar system, not Navari in origin. "It seems," Takeda said carefully, "that our activities have attracted attention." Valeria smiled for the first time in what felt like years. "Good. The galaxy just got a lot smaller. We'll need all the friends and understanding we can get." The message from the unknown contact was simple, transmitted in multiple formats as if to ensure reception. "We have been watching. We are impressed. May we join the conversation?" Humanity had not only survived its first interstellar contact, it had turned potential extinction into a new beginning. And the exiled warlord, once considered too extreme for civilized society, had proven that understanding could be as powerful as any weapon. Valeria Cade, once of Earth, now of Mars, prepared to welcome yet another new perspective to the complex tapestry of galactic civilization. The wars of the future would still come, but so would alliances, trade, and exchange of knowledge. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but through resilience, adaptability, and the vision of those who could see beyond immediate conflict to long-term coexistence. The exile had ended. The redemption was complete. And across the vast gulfs between stars, the message was clear: humanity was ready.